Voters in Taiwan head to the polls on Saturday in a tight race dominated by relations with China. The governing party is defending its record of a tough line against Beijing's threats of invasion. The opposition says it's time to restart dialogue to de-escalate. China claims that Taiwan is its own and has warned that the election could be a choice between war and peace. DW's chief international editor Richard Walker reports now from Taipei, where voters face a difficult decision.
2024 is a year of what-ifs for democracies around the world.
What if Donald Trump wins the White House again? What if the European Parliament gets overrun by the far right?
But the first big what-if of 2024 is about to play out right here in Taiwan. After years of antagonistic relations with China, voters here might be about to choose something very different. A friendly approach to Beijing.
We spoke with a man who embodies that idea. Ma Ying-jeou was the last president of Taiwan, serving from 2008 to 2016. Now he hopes his KMT party will win the presidency again, with him as one of its top power brokers. He says the current government's whole approach to China of boosting the military to deter an attack is flat out wrong.
No matter how much you defend yourself, you can never fight a war with the mainland, and you can never win. They're too large, much stronger than us, so we should use non-used military means to reduce the tension.
Instead, Ma calls for dialogue with China, picking up where he left off when he met Xi Jinping in 2015.
A meeting like that between Xi Jinping and the current Taiwanese president is almost unthinkable. But Ma Ying-jeou says that under a different president, Taiwan could work with Xi and even trust him.
So you think you can trust him?
Well, as far as cross relations, you have to.
All this actually goes further than Ma's own party. Its candidate for president, Hou Yu-yi, insists he is committed to Taiwan's defense and has no illusions about the Chinese leadership.
I've never had any unrealistic ideas about the mainland's intentions. I'm very pragmatic and steady in my approach to the mainland.
The governing party's candidate, William Lai, also gave us his response. He said he's also prepared to talk to China, but he won't make concessions to make that happen. And that, for him, deterrence comes a clear first.
We seek peace through strength, not by the goodwill of the aggressor. The goodwill of the aggressor cannot be relied upon.
So what is the right balance between deterrence and dialogue when facing such a massive and threatening neighbor as China? Now it's up to the Taiwanese people to decide. They're just 19 million out of the billions of voters around the world who will cast their ballots this year. But Taiwan's choice will have huge implications in this first what if of 2024.
And Taiwan will decide at the polls on Saturday. We just saw Richard Walker, who filed that report. He is joining us now from Taipei. Richard, welcome to you. In your report, we saw the former Taiwanese president saying that Taipei has to trust Xi Jinping. How does he expect voters to trust China when it's made its intentions with Taiwan quite clear?
Yeah, Sarah, and that is one reason why this interview that we did with Ma Ying-jeou earlier in the week has been really hugely controversial here in Taiwan. People have been coming up to me and talking to me spontaneously about it. And some of the statements that he made in that interview, including the two that we saw in the report there, really have caused an awful lot of controversy, and particularly this idea that you have to trust Xi Jinping on matters of cross-strait relations. That is seen by many Taiwanese as hopelessly naive, and we saw in the report that Ma Ying-jeou's own candidate has had to distance himself pretty clearly from those comments. Still, though, his point that Taiwan needs to attempt to bring back dialogue with the mainland, with China, is a point that both of the opposition parties are making. Both of those combined represent certainly more than 50% of the population. So that is an opinion, I think, that is shared pretty widely by Taiwanese people right now. And that does make this kind of what if very interesting. What if the opposition does get through in this election? It's quite possible. It's a close three-way race. It is conceivable that Ho Yo-yi, the opposition main candidate that we saw in the report there, will get through, take the presidency, and move into what would be quite a new world. What happens? How does the situation here across the Taiwan Strait change if you have a government here that is really willing to try to build bridges with China? So this is what we're going to be watching this weekend.
What is Beijing saying, meantime, about the election?
Yeah, well, Beijing has been saying a lot of pretty familiar things in the lead up to the election. So one spokesperson from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually said, well, don't ask me questions about this because it's not foreign affairs. Taiwan is China's domestic issue, so this is a domestic election. The Chinese have ominously told the Taiwanese that they have to make what they call the correct choice, which is taken to mean to vote for the opposition, or particularly for the party of Ma Ying-jeou. And there's been quite a bit, on the other hand, of kind of military and what you call grey zone activity in recent days. So just today, the Taiwanese Defense Ministry is reporting that Chinese warplanes have been flying near to Taiwan. In recent weeks, there have been mysterious balloons flying even over the island. And there have been what you call grey zone tactics, so kind of below the military level, but disinformation, that sort of thing. But the thing is, this is nothing out of the ordinary for Taiwan. Taiwan's been living with this for years, for decades even. So that really is not out of the ordinary. But certainly China would be delighted if the party of Ma Ying-jeou, if the opposition did manage to squeak through in this election, and that they were suddenly presented with a government here in Taiwan that was friendlier.
Richard, Washington is looking quite closely at the results. What's at stake for U.S. ties in the region if there is a power shift in Taiwan?
Yeah, well, this is very, very interesting. So the United States, of course, insists that it has no preference in this election, that it can work very well with any Taiwanese party, that it has total confidence in Taiwanese democracy, which has, of course, been proven many times in recent decades. But it is interesting to consider what Washington's preferences might be. Now, the current government, the DPP, which is very stridently anti-China, there are some concerns that could lead to an intensification of tensions across the strait in the months ahead if they do regain power. But the vice presidential candidate from that party has spent the last few years in Washington as Taiwan's representative there and has extremely good connections there. So that is seen as a plus point on their side. On the other side, though, the opposition, the Kuomintang, the party of Ma Ying-jeou, who we spoke to, I think there's a sense in Washington that, D.C. is dealing with so many crises in the world. If you look at the war in Ukraine, the war in the Middle East, to have a government in Taiwan that is working to try to de-escalate tensions with China may not be the worst thing in the world. So I think Washington is genuinely on the fence here. And it's interesting to see that Tony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, also meeting a senior Chinese diplomat today, also a signal that the U.S. and China are trying to get through this situation, this obviously very sensitive situation,
right,
without this escalating into a new crisis right now.
Richard Walker in Taiwan as voters get ready to head to the polls tomorrow. Thank you.